Festiie fam, the time is now. Festival goers unite. Welcome to the Festiie Files, where we introduce various components and cool people within the festival community. The goal is simple. There are so many inspiring stories and inspiring people that attend music festivals. Sometimes it's a headliner DJ, sometimes it's literally a vendor or someone who's pretty influential in the crowd. Last time we had a guy chugging sriracha. Today we're going to give you another in-depth look at another part of festivals and the music industry with an up-and-coming artist. Ladies and gentlemen, I love this guy right here. Gives me great pleasure to introduce Corey Vejar, aka SNSES. SNSES is an up-and-coming music producer. He's cranking out some melodic, beautiful tracks. I personally can say, oh, well, what's he sound like? A mixture between like Odesza, RL Grime, a little bit of Flume. I mean, that's euphoric stuff. So he just released a couple tracks, and it looks like, you know, although all these things are happening in 2020, we're very interested to get your take on things and talk more about your journey. So yeah, man, welcome aboard. Welcome to the Festiie Files.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. I'm really excited. It's been a while. I haven't seen your face in a minute.
I know. Festie's back out. It's funny you say your face. It's also like just Festiie, the company. So our whole thing is, you know, we've been pushing out this smart band, but right now there aren't any festivals. So what other ways can we unite the community? That's why we're kicking off this podcast. And we believe that right now is the time to shed that positive light on the community, right? So everyone's at home trying to figure out what to do. We can't go to EDC. We can't go to this festival. And so how have you been taking things, man? And yeah, just give us your update.
Everything's been good on my end. I mean, thankfully, I still have a day job because I'm still an upcoming artist. But I'm getting paid. I'm getting paid time off, so my company is taking care of me. So in regards to the music, though, right? Music is going great. You know, I'm working on. I just released a mix. I released a song. I got another song coming out in May. So just been working on more music in between. That, practicing, getting ready for shows whenever that can come back up again. In regards to the industry, like how you were talking about, the electronic industry is actually surprising. It's the only genre of music right now that is currently doing a bunch of live streams. Look at this, like we're doing the most. That's what I'm really enjoying about this. People are getting really creative. So as far as you see live streams from everybody, from Insomniac, from small time promoters, and from anybody in between. And at least for me, that's what I've been kind of tuning into. I've been tuning to that, just working on my own project right now. But that's about it for me, man.
For sure, man. It's beautiful. Like right now, everyone's having to get super creative, right? Like we're jumping on a podcast. We just dropped a list, one website with just a large list of all the live streams that have occurred and taken place since this kind of quarantine. So you can just go one place, click it. It's at festie.com. And you know, as an up-and-coming artist, let's talk about your journey a bit. And I know 2020, there are a lot of plans and a lot of excitement, and I'm sure there still is a lot of excitement. But of course, when you're going into the festival season thinking, oh, I'm going to push out this track, and as an up-and-coming artist, maybe a larger artist or someone will hear it and play it during their set. So right now, we've kind of taken a step away from that. How has doing so affected you? I know you said you're still creating. And just, yeah, talk about your journey kind of in the music game. Let's start from the beginning, actually. So tell people, you know, I'm tuning into this podcast and I don't know too much about SNSES. Maybe you could just give us that story.
So in regards to the beginning of SNSES, believe it or not, this was actually supposed to be a duo project like well in the past, right? Anyways, I had a previous project called Moody. And then fast forward to some years later, after curating all this music and kind of having this brand in my back pocket, I realized that there was a sound here. And in regards to SNSES, what came about that? Well, for me, it was a deeper message. it was a side of me that people didn't see. So there's social me, social Corey, that can go out and talk to people, and you know me face to face as your friend. This music is a lot about kind of like those own demons, or even the other scenarios I've had to face in my life, and that, you know, I had to kind of battle to get through, you know. So as far as this project, it's a lot more of a deeper meaning. This project probably came about in 2016 or so, 2016, 2017. The idea, like the original thought of it. Um, the look sort of changed, obviously, of what I had imagined in my mind, and the sound, but you know, that's life for you, man. I mean, straight up. So as far as the full blown creation of this project, it's been years in the making, and just launched last year in December. So that's it's been roughly about a 3-year project or so. You know, some of these songs, the first original songs, started about 3 years ago or so. So that was kind of the very beginning of SNSES, was just kind of creating music around it. I didn't know that I wanted to fully launch that project until I had a big list of songs at least to release for this project. But that's kind of the beginning of that one anyways.
Awesome, dude. Dude, you brought out so many interesting points. And for everyone, like I said, this is Corey Vejar, SNSES. I am Desmond Beristain, CEO and founder of Festiie. And SNSES is an up-and-coming artist. He just mentioned it. He's been working on this project. He's been working on music production in this space since 2016. Now we're in 2020. So he already emphasized one point. I'm sure you didn't rush this project, Corey, right? You've taken your time, and you've also shown that you've even switched names. You've had to juggle maybe working part-time but creating music. Let's start there, man. I would love to hear how you're able to do all that and the process behind that, because I'm sure you need a certain type of energy to get you from point A to point B. I mean, with Festiie, the same thing. We started end of 2016. Here it is, 2020, and we're still trucking along. So would love to hear kind of that journey.
Yeah, in regards to the kind of it's all about balance. I mean, like, you just put it into one thing. It sounds cliche, but it's really is all about balance. At least, and then if you're first starting, I would just say I would recommend try to get 2 hours in a day. The best way to get better at anything is show up. That's half the battle. Just try not to be distracted. Stay focused, and remember to be patient. There is an end goal. You know, everyone wants to be the big superstar rock DJ, and everyone hears, you know, oh, this guy blew up overnight because this artist dropped their song, or whatever the case may be. They got put on by this person, who whatever the scenario may be. Just know that there was hours and thousands of hours that were put in, you know, in order to get to that level that you see some of your favorite artists on, whether it be, for example, like for me, would it be like Porter Robinson, Flume, Odesza, RL Grime, like you name it. There's loads of hours put in for these artists, and you know, with that being said, in regards to like that work-life balance, you know, when you're first starting, it can seem very overwhelming, but put in any time you can towards that project. If you really care about it, you just got to put the hours in. It's as simple as that.
Nice, man. Nice. I think you mentioned a good point. Just consistency. You know, if it's 2 hours a day, you can just keep putting that in, and it adds up. So I'm gonna just start throwing questions at you, like, because I feel like most people that go to an event, you know, you come home, you're so hyped, you love the festival, and then I'm sure at one point the idea of like, well, what if I were a DJ? Everyone fantasizes about that. I mean, I got it right behind me. I'm like, you know what? I might just do my own set right here, right now. But I'm sure so much goes into getting to that point. So if you're someone at home, I mean, I'm sure it starts with 2 hours a day. Just keep chipping away at it. Keep chipping away at it. Do you need to be? Do you need to go to like? Do you need an extensive musical background to get going in this journey and pursue this music production dream? Or, I mean, are there many ways to get it? And how did you find your way through it?
I mean, I think in regards to musical background, think every one of us has had one at some point. Um, Now, in regards to being a producer, right? If you're like a record producer and you're like creating tracks from like a blank canvas, start to finish, I think having some sort of musical knowledge is great. In regards to like instrumentation and stuff like that, you don't have to be like a multi-instrumentalist to be a great producer. You don't have to do that. If you understand music theory and you know how to create a track, then hey, you can lay it down all on a laptop. That's the world now. We have the technology to help us. Now, in regards to just putting a skeleton up and throwing it and just putting it on Spotify or whatever, maybe it won't stick out. So you gotta stay creative. That's the hard part. With electronic music in general, there's a lot into it. It's not just music like knowledge and how you can play instruments. It's you're playing the role of a producer, an engineer, and so on. Your sound designer, like all that stuff. So in regards to electronic production or being like a digital producer in this era, it's just stay creative. You got to, there's a lot of facets that you have to take on. A lot of different hats you have to put on in order to play this role. So
Word.
you
How
know
do you or how did you find your sound? Because let's say I'm an artist, or I want to be an artist now, so I'm putting in my 2 hours. I'm trying to learn whether it's Pro Tools or FL Studios or Ableton, whatnot, and I'm kind of cranking away. How do you find your sound? And then how did SNSES find his sound?
like I said, I think it goes back to that first beginning question, just putting in hours. You don't know your sound until you keep creating music again and again and again. You know what I mean? For me, it kind of happened like a little happy accident where I was just creating music that I liked and that I didn't really hear. I would listen on, so whether it's Spotify or anywhere, SoundCloud especially, to where I couldn't think of a song I wanted to listen to, right? So I kind of just took all my inspirations, and just kept producing. And over time and over the years, as I started finishing songs, I was like, wow, this one sounds like this one, and this one sounds a little bit like this one. And there's a little bit of a story here, especially in regards to what the songs are written about. So that's when, like I said, the SNSES project came about, and how that sound came about is that they kind of accidentally just became this compilation of tracks. And I was like, okay, I'm like, we have something here now. So that's how that entire project came about with that sound so far. Is just years of working on music, man. Simple as that.
Got it. So you just got to crank away. I mean, same thing. When I played basketball, it was like, hey, you got to log in your 10,000 hours. And then around that time, you start to demonstrate a form of mastery or really feeling comfortable within the space. But then there's so much beauty in the experimentation phase, right? There's so much beauty in the exploration phase. That probably is what music should be, right? It's just a bunch of exploring and trying things out and seeing what works, and not being too critical of yourself if it doesn't work, you know?
100%. That's all music is, anyways. I mean, there are people who go by, strict guidelines, in regards to whether they're like, audio engineers or whatever. There's like the rights and wrongs, right? But in regards to how I've seen my peers or people around me when they're making music, it's kind of just like, hey, go for it, man. Like, do it. We're not like, oh, what key is this in right now exactly? Like, oh, don't be so strict. Just, have fun with it and kind of like just see what happens. Because I mean, one of my favorite stories, if I could share this, is from Kashmir, Big Room DJ, the one who was with the Cataracts.
Yep. He's awesome.
So like a G6, that little low bass line, boom, 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 boom. That one was supposed to be on a flute. It was in one of his, he was teaching a class, and he was going to put it on a flute, and what he said what happened, he put it on the wrong channel, that melody on the wrong channel, and then he looked around the room around him, and everyone's kind of bopping their head to that bass line. So that wasn't even supposed to be the normal sound. It was just a happy accident, just exploring. That's just have fun with it, man. That's honestly as simple as it gets. That and just put in work. That's all.
Dude, it's funny you bring up Kashmir, because his set, the first time I saw him, I was like, all right, let's check this out. I've been stoked. And then the visuals, like the opening visuals, I felt like, man, it's like some artists, Kashmir, Porter Robinson, visuals play such a large part in the whole experience. You mentioned it, like first it's making music, but the evolution of electronic music, the evolution of festivals, it's like the total experience. And yeah, maybe kind of talk about that. Obviously, you need to have some really cool tracks that people can connect with, right? And then, of course, now it's like, obviously there's so many artists out there, especially if you're an up and coming artist, you want to kind of differentiate yourself, right? So maybe you could speak of how there is the other side of things, which is making the awesome track and then bringing it to life beyond even just the audio version.
Yeah. So about like the audio visual sort of aspect in regards to the like music industry, basically, or as a electronic artist, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So in regards to that, first and foremost, music first, man. Like straight up, that's going to be the thing that's going to take you farther than any graphics can, as a musician, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, having that sort of setting for your track, though, that's great, you know. And in regards to talking about like, you know, producers, you know, we just want to make music. That's, you know, the branding and all that other stuff, you know, that stuff can be a little tedious to some, you know, and times too as well. I'm definitely can be a little weary of all the branding and trying to do that. But as far as this, like in regards to this project, for me, like this project I've really latched onto. So like the brand is not the most important part to me, but it's nice because I know the setting for my music. So that's the thing when it comes to having multiple projects. So, you know, what kind of project are you trying to have here? You're trying to have a little more serious side, you know, in regards to with the audio visuals, trying to have fun, you know, kind of meme pages that you kind of see or whatever. People like that still. So in regards to that, like, I'm just gonna go from start to beginning, right? So you kind of decide on kind of what your brand is about, right? Or what look you're trying to go for. And that's with the music involved, obviously. Then from creating that setting, for me, it's about just exploring options and what's your storyline, how do you want to portray it, and then from there, it's a lot of research and just looking online to find a graphic designer. Recently, I got lucky, and we were working with multiple people. Kevin Velasquez, quick shout out to him. He's the one who did a website design. Did it for
K-Quez. K-Quez, that's K-Quez right there, man. Shouts out.
Homie, man. Guys,
yeah. Well, real quick, you just mentioned it. Like, first, you know, if you're gonna be an artist, know what you want in regards to, like, if you're gonna crank out music. Like, it seems like he took a pretty firm stance on, no, make sure your music is good. You know what I mean? You can have ideas and whatnot, but like start there, you know, and then start branching out. Because what I'm trying to do, what I want people to leave this podcast with is like all the people at home right now watching, thinking about it, like turning behind them. Like, I just bought all the gear, I committed, you know, you might not even need all that gear to start. Like, so yeah, did you even need all that gear to start? What did you really use to start up?
Just good pair of speakers, man, and some basically just Ableton or whatever DAW your preference is. Download some samples, have fun, dude. Just chip away. You don't need to buy $1,000 equipment, you know. But once you get to a level to where you really have an ear for it and you can start cranking tracks out, you'll start understanding, you know, oh, this is why they use this equipment. This is why this equipment is so much, you know. It's not that it's necessary, it just becomes a lot more convenient, you know. So I mean, it just depends, you know. It depends what you're trying to do. If you're a vocalist, I would say, you know, your money should probably go into a really nice interface, you know, and then a decent microphone to record your vocals. Like simple as that, just so that you can record properly. If you're a producer, get a laptop and a nice pair of headphones, or a laptop and some monitors, a cheap pair of monitors, and just set it up in your room and just get it started. So you don't need the most expensive gear, the best gear. That doesn't make you the best. What makes you the best is how you practice, and that's the most important part.
How you practice. So maybe talk about that, because I'm sure it's you've been working on this project for years, and hey, we're getting into the nitty gritty. There's perfectionism. Everyone wants to make sure that what they put out, and I've met so many artists where they like look back at it and they're like, oh, I could have done this better. I could have done this better. And I think like a lot of artists and just creators in general always think like, well, I can go in and do more. When do you have to kind of face yourself and say like, no, it's ready, and I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? And then maybe describe your own story, because I want people to know that like, dude, I want us to look back at this, and really see like, you know what, like SNSES, he told us how it was, and that's what happened. And so many artists, like, I feel like when you get to watch an artist grow up right in front of you, it really shows that, wow, this is possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So in regards to like, you're talking about like finished product, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the hardest part. Like I can admit that is the hardest part. It could always be better, that's
yeah.
thing you do, especially in art. It's a funny saying. I don't firmly believe this, but you work on a piece until you hate it, and then you give it out to the world. That's about how it works. I'm kidding. But no, I'm just kidding. But no, I love my work. It gets to a point to where, you just got to let go. You can't get so attached to a track, that's the actual truth of the matter behind it, is that, you can't, I don't want to say, oh yeah, this is good enough. It's just like, there comes a point there where there's a light in your brain or something that's a click. And then you're just like, it's time to move on now. Now that point is different for many different people, I think, like I said, when it comes to practicing stuff and everything, you start realizing your ear for it, and you start understanding when the track is done or when a certain project is done, but that's the hard part. That's a hard question to answer.
Well, how about this on the flip side? I think you did a great job answering it. On the flip side, what about I'm an artist, I'm trying to find my sound, I'm working on a track, right? And I'm stuck. I'm sure you've maybe had to deal with this, where you're like stuck, you're not feeling in flow. Do I just grind it out, push through, or like what's the whole ebb and flow behind finding that creative genius and like getting the best out of you? Or do you switch tracks? What's your method of when you ever find yourself like, okay, I'm hitting kind of a little hurdle here?
I mean, it depends. Okay, so this is very subjective in regards to what have you been doing recently? Have you been working nonstop on music? Then you probably shouldn't take a little bit of a break. If you haven't worked on music in a long time and this is your first time getting back into it, man, you got to grind through it. You try instead of trying to work on maybe your specific genre, try making something else completely different. Writer's block can be changed by, like, as a producer, that's the beauty, especially in being like a computer producer or whatever, like a digital producer. You have the ability to not just make electronic music. I can make R&B beats. I can make hip hop beats. I can make pop. Like there's options. You have versatility as a producer. So, if it's been a long duration since, you haven't worked on music for 2 weeks and now you're coming back to it, or whatever, then you should probably just try to grind through that. If you've been working on it for well over a month and just consistent every day, that's why you should take a little bit of a break, man. In regards to what I do, if I do need to take a break, I like to go for hikes, walks, stuff like that to clear my head, maybe a drive. If it's been a while since I produced some music, because maybe I came back from a vacation or something like that, I'll do exactly what I just told you. Just kind of sit down, just tinker away. One of the best things I do, if you have a writer's block, just create a bunch of loops. Just create a single phrase and create multiple different phrases that are all different, right? Maybe like 8 of them, right? Just a quick little beat, and come back to it the next day. See which one you like, then continue on to your work. Or take a break and come back in a few hours and continue on with your work. See which ones you like. The best way, if you're out of ideas, at least for me, is to take a break so you can create new ideas, just personal thoughts, or just create a whole bunch of new random ideas, and put it on and materialize it, put it onto your computer.
Word.
So yeah,
What about, dude, that's awesome. So what I remember this story. I'm gonna share a story. I was like, I'm supporting, so I go and meet Corey, and he's like playing me this track, and literally we'll be there for like I'll spend the day there, and we'll play like the one track, like
yeah,
I'll probably hear it like 100 times in a day. He's like, you hear that now, you hear that now, and at first I was like, man, it all sounds the same, but then eventually you start to, I guess, notice little differences in the track. So when it comes to building your ear, and I would say every artist, right, has to build their ear and whatnot. Is there a strategy of doing that? Is it just comes back down to repetition, repetition, repetition?
In regards to building your ear, yeah, it's going to be, once you to build more repetition and you put the time in, you start understanding what, say, like plugins and software you like, you like to use, what your ear likes. Like almost every producer, mixing engineer for that matter, is going to basically have their go-tos, they're going to have their go-to plugins that they like to use that they know will work. I have my little box of tricks that I like, that I use in like every single song. So it's a lot of repetition, understanding, but then also you don't want to box yourself in though, so in regards to the mixing side of things, I have my core plugins. Like I know what I want to use to make this sound good. In regards to creating, that's a whole different story. That's more just experiment, have fun. You can't, or else you're just going to have that same sound. It's going to be so flat across the listeners. You're not going to have that diversity as an artist. But yeah, I mean, that's
you're like a well, it's not a graduate, but I guess you could say yeah. You already got your undergraduate, and now you're working on your master's, right, for YouTube University. Because there's so many ways to learn how to make music now, right? You got Icon, you have YouTube, right? And is that like for your journey in particular? How did you do it? I mean, because one thing I noticed when I was like, all right, I'm gonna start making music, and I started just messing around, but then I also realized like, wow, this is a lot more complex and challenging than I thought. And you really are an audio engineer, right? So how did you just say, like, how did you get through that? I mean, were you just like, nope, I'm just gonna keep cranking, and then you found videos on YouTube, or because now to hear what you're putting out now, it's like, damn, dude, it's really inspiring.
Yeah, in regards to how it started, I was on it was as simple as I could. You get it. It was a piece of junk HP laptop, like with some FL Studio on it, So probably can get up to about 12 tracks max, 12 channels on that thing. But it was a drive for it, So from there into where I got now, from learning, it was more just like either hanging out with my peers, watching a lot of YouTube videos. I actually have a full list of links that I still will go back to this day just to watch. But YouTube is incredible. Like the digital age that we live in right now, there's so much opportunity to do what you want, especially during this time in quarantine. It's terrible, but a lot of people have a lot of time on their hands,
Mm-hmm.
And if you wanted to learn to play the guitar, if you wanted to learn to be a producer, a graphic designer, any of the above, whatever, if you want to take on just a different avenue, then, now would be the time to start and to put a little bit of time in, because there's just so much education out there. You can just type in anything like music production masterclass. I guarantee you'll find an hour video on YouTube right now, like almost certain. So it's more just watching and learning. And, the beauty in these videos is that if you forget, you can always go back.
Yeah.
It's just keep watching those and practice as the video is going on. It's kind of like a college course. If you ever had online classes, anybody's ever had online classes, it's like that. You're taking notes almost, but you're just kind of painting on your canvas while you're listening to this guy talk to you. So
yeah, you're being a student of the game, which is
that's it.
Yeah, like everyone's just trying to, even the headline artists, the headline DJs, they're still honing in on their craft. So I think like that's something that always stays within. How about this? Talk about so your upbringing. You were playing a lot of events, DJing a lot, and then one day you were like, you know what, I'm gonna step away from the DJing to focus on music production? Is that how it worked? Because a lot of people think like, all right, like I'm ready to just get up there on the big stage.
Yeah.
And you've gone through that experience. You've opened for who have you opened for? I mean, you used to invite me to like events, and then those guys are like all headliners now. You're like Troy Boys tonight. You're like I think Ghastly's tonight, and then you were opening for them. So just kind of talk about the DJing process. What led you to say I'm going to take a step back and then get more into the production side of things, and then the advice you have for someone that just wants to get out there and already start DJing.
So in regards to the DJing side, right? Now look, if you're like thinking DJing, and you gotta, if you want to start off as a DJ, think small promoters. I'm not talking your big corporate giants like Insomniac or Golden Voice, anything like that. Unless you find your way in, then by all means, like have fun, like do that. But how I started, anyways, from my perspective, was this company out in Santa Ana that went by White Rabbit Group. Sorry.
White Rabbit Group, Yoast Theater. Those were the days.
Thursdays, man. Yep, they were crazy times, man. That tiny little club, little sweatbox, man. Good time, dude. A lot of good energy in that crowd, though, man. It was like a festival crowd when you played. But yeah, I mean, it was a small time gig, man. My first ever gig was Tropiquilla's up top in that little skybox that room maybe held at max 150, and there's two people dancing. Like, I've seen empty dance floors before, and you will see that, and you just can't get undetermined, by seeing that, because you will have bad nights that are really slow. I remember playing at the Fox Theater, at the main stage of the Fox Theater in Pomona, and there was literally only two of my best friends still to this day that were on the floor watching me. But these were small time promoters that were throwing these events. And it's not necessarily about the people that are there. It's about the experience you get. If you're on a stage, be grateful. You're going to have friends that are going to be there. So in regards to the DJing, you'll get a lot of promoters that'll tell you, oh, you need to sell tickets. Well, look, I understand the backlash on selling tickets, but if you're a fresh starting DJ and you're trying to make your name in it, and you can't put in the extra bit of time to go reach out to your friends or people to, hey, come see me play, then why are you trying to, what makes you think you're going to put extra time into producing? Because that gets way more tedious than just asking people to buy tickets from you. That's my little perception on that. If you can't put in the extra little bit of hours instead of just, because you're making an hour DJ set, and let me tell you, for me, that does not take that long as finishing a track. So if you can't put in extra time after you create your set for that show, and you can't go reach out to people to, hey, come see me play, come see what I have, then man, you're just lacking drive at that point. Like, I can see the cons on both sides of that, but that's from my standpoint as starting out. So I went from starting tickets, then I went to getting paid, but that was all based off of experience. Once you start getting more experience, you open up for bigger headliners, and you have your little press kit and all that other stuff, then if as a local DJ anyways, then you can start moving up. But for me, like you said, I stepped away from shows. I got some advice from a friend who was on a festival circuit for a good period of time, and he told me, he's like, if you're just DJing, he's like, you should sit down from shows and just focus solely on production and then come back. And that's what I've been doing.
What do you do? What do you think's the pro to that? Do you think that if you're an artist who, I mean, it's great that you got the experience. So like, I feel like that in its own is pretty awesome, pretty epic, and a blessing, because you've been in front of a big crowd, you've been in front of a stage, and then the flip side, you've been there when it's not a big crowd, and you had to deal with those questions. Well, how does that make me feel? Well, I'm still playing music, but then you made a firm decision to say, you know what, I'm going to make my own stuff. Do you think that only strengthens the case? I'm pretty sure that's probably what you're thinking. It's a power play. Like, I'm going to dive deeper into myself, come back out of it, implement that to what I've learned, and then ultimately now we have more opportunities. Do you think art, like, you have to have your own tracks really to get to a certain level?
Yes, straight up. You're not going to play a big festival unless you're writing your own music. It's as simple as that. If Flume would not be where he is today if he was just a performing artist doing cover tracks for everybody, like your idols would not be where they are today performing these crazy shows unless they had written their own music. It's simple as that gets. There are big there's DJs out there who just mix, but they are if you're talking about festival circuits and you want to have those big shows, you want to sell out arenas or whatever your dreams may be, you do need to write your own music. It's as simple as that gets. A good music is what's going to get you up there, because I've seen guys who have amazing tracks but who are not that good live, but they're on a huge stage still. It's not the other way around, where guys are really good DJs, and they don't have good tracks behind their name. I think the production is by far the most important. Like, it doesn't get more important than that.
Wow. And do you think that, like, since you've done that, you took the time to jump into production, obviously you're not DJing shows, but do you think that when you do get back to that, which is going to be very soon, and you've already dropped one mix, you're able to just bring in so many more elements and you feel like the quality of your set just improves?
Yeah, I think in regards to the production aspect, by learning so much in production, I feel like it's allowed me to kind of like see DJing differently.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can break rules now, you know what I mean? You can switch, like for me, like when I was DJing, I was very almost like BPM oriented in a way, right? To where it was almost like everything has to be correct, and like in some certain way, my exact that. I used to still experiment as a DJ, don't get me wrong. But in regards to learning production,
you said you were like more technical?
taking that. I feel like I was way more technical. Now it's like, now I can honestly, it's a little bit more creative freedom. Let me put it that way. In regards to sets that, like, at least how I'm thinking I want to curate them right now, other than some that I have curated for myself, I think that there's going to be a lot more to offer. This is not going to be that typical trap show or whatever I used to play, you know what I mean? Like, there's going to be a little bit more depth to it, a little more emotion. So in regards to that, yeah, I mean, I think skills I've learned as a producer are definitely going to help me leaning forward towards especially like live sets and just any live performance in general.
Cool, man. That was a big decision. That was a big decision you made, especially with like the industry. It's so, like so fast. It moves so fast. So for you to step away from that, take a big deep breath, exhale, and then say, all right, get into this space. Well, let's talk about the project. So let's talk about what the album's called, and you have some tracks out. I love Tired, I love Our Love, but it's almost like this juxtaposition of music where you kind of take us through the dark and then you bring in light, and it's like this dance. So maybe you could talk about your project, what it means to you, and what it's pushing out, because the music is great, and now it's like, let's show the message. Would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, in regards to this, the concept was a basic, like, kind of like a two-part series in regards to these first initial releases. So the first ones, you see all the black and red from Dark Days come down to Tired. That's more of like the character is transitioning, and if you look at the cover art and stuff like that. So you're kind of coming out of the depths, you got the kind of fire in your eyes, and you're kind of a little bit burnt out, because you're trying to get through things. So now, like you said, the darkness to light. In regards to like In Rouge, and then in Count, and then almost slipped that one out. Almost dropped it out.
That's what we want. We want the exclusives. We're gonna ask you what's next soon enough.
I'm working on that track right now. I'm finishing a track right now. So, but in regards to In Rouge and Our Love. And then the next track is going to be titled Cycles. That is with Kara Music. So Kara's wonderful. They were probably one of the most talented women I ever met in my life. Yeah. But those transitions in regards to these, it's kind of just the light is supposed to be sort of the drive, It's the, like you said, it's the light at the end of the tunnel, if I want to be cliche about it. But, we all want to do better. in humanity, each of us in the back of our head, we want to be a better person. We want that. But for me, in order to be a better person, I have to realize what has gone wrong, where the, the darkness was, where, what all that bad stuff that happened, and recognize that, embrace that, and then move on from it. React logically, not emotionally to it, at least for me. That's a saying that I've been kind of living off of. It's a good way to kind of collect your thoughts a little bit. So I would go from there. And now in regards to this light, right, from In Rouge to Our Love is about, it's actually me and my girlfriend, believe it or not. And it's about kind of like, I was coming out of this light, coming out of this darkness with In Rouge, and moving on to Our Love. And then she was really great. She actually helped guide me, like, more than she knows, honestly. And now with cycles, it's going to be great. It's all about just basically realizing where you came from and knowing that things are gonna, they will get better. You just kind of got to go with the flow. So that's the entire storyboard, it's all about just progressing and getting past those things, embracing the bad times in your life, but understanding that there is much in front of you that, you have to go to. You can't just dwell on the past, or else, you'll just become that darkness, man.
Word. Dude, it's beautiful music, man. I mean, you already know how I felt when, well, I would run into Corey. We would run into each other at festivals all the time. Super trippy. We'd run into each other, and like, we're like, how do we keep running into each other? I think that 8th time I was like, all right, you know what are you up to, man? Send me your music. Or you're still making music, right? And he's like, yeah. And then he sent it over. And I mean, I fell in love with the tracks, dude. I mean, they're inspiring. Talk about where does your inspiration come from?
Like I said, since it's kind of a project to deciding that people don't see, that's at least how it first did start. And then, so it kind of came from a little bit of my original thoughts. I just kind of took my original thoughts, or even like, I guess, what I want to say, like the moments that I've gone through in my life, so I've taken those and kind of just twisted them into a storyline that can be a little bit more vague, if you will, so I don't want it to be so about me. I want it to be a little bit more open-ended, so people can kind of like perceive it how they choose to. That's art in general.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to tell you how to feel. You feel however you want to feel.
Exactly.
So,
are there artists that coming out right now? You listen to a ton of music. You send me stuff, and I'm like, damn, like that's an awesome track. How'd you find that? Like, you put me on to Skeller, and that dude is pushing out. They're pushing out a wave of music.
Who's a monster? No, him, Juche, like all those guys, man.
Yeah. G Jones, shouts. Are you serious? So who are like, real quick, just some artists, just to show love. We want to spread that positivity and be like, you know what, this artist, you guys are killing it. Obviously, we both vibe off of Virtual Self. G Jones. We just mentioned Skeller. Maybe name a couple others.
And if I have to name some buddies that I've been talking to, we're gonna have some work going. Well, Kara first and foremost, that and Reed Stefan, like absolute dons. Like those.
That's out to Reed, Stefan, and Kara.
Crazy. Absolutely some most talented individuals I've ever met in my life. Then got another brother, Lockbox Music, man. That guy is a really talented producer as well. He's just released a Russian back remix. You should go peep that out.
Lockbox Music, man. We gotta get you on here. Share your story. We'd love to hear it.
Old cat, man. Let's see who else we got. I mean, I have some people. I have a buddy that actually, my buddy Bryce Thomas. There'll be more news to come, but we have a project lined up for him. It's going to be a little bit more of a visual and like a lo-fi project. It's going to be really exciting, actually. It's a lo-fi with the twist. So
artists love to do that, right?
My buddy Bryce is going to be killing it too. I got a lot of guys, man. I mean, in regards to like my favorite artist, man, right now at the moment, Skeller, you kind of named it, dude. That guy is something else, dude. Like that kid from Australia is something. It's wild. I need to link up with him. I need to talk.
For sure, man. It's funny. I think artists love to do that, though. They love to just drop surprises, like, and boom, today this dropped, and it's like, what? And then just like, I think that's kind of part of it, right? This whole community and where people just surprise, I came out the blue and hit you with this. Um, so so let's talk about the current state of music festivals. Obviously, everything's been postponed. Unfortunately, some festivals had to even cancel, and I'm sure that changes the landscape as creators, as artists, as performers. From your eyes, what have you seen? I know you said everyone's getting more creative, but what do you see about the current landscape, and then what do you see coming out in the future? You know, maybe we can. It's all about finding opportunities and making positives out of this. So have you been able to do so, and what do you see for the overall community? Do you have some, like, maybe even some words of wisdom, and just like, you know, because we all got to band together right now.
Yeah, I mean, like I stated it earlier, I mean, the electronic like genre and just this community in general is literally doing the most out of any other genre right now, as far as I've seen in regards to like putting on entertainment still. Times it's we're talking live streams, a whole lot of podcasts and stuff, right? um they're doing a lot almost every single day. There's a DJ set. I guarantee you can go
Yeah.
online right now and find one.
That's why we're updating the Festi lineup every other day, because it's like you just keep adding. And I know there's probably some that we missed, but they're now we're utilizing YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. So yeah, you're right though. But see, we want, the music industry, EDM. They're everyone's banding together. We definitely want to include even other genres. I know A-Track he did like a throwback '90s set, which
Yeah,
is like freaking epic.
yeah. When I'm talking about in regards to genres, I'm talking about like these heads that we're thinking like A-Track and everybody else. Those are electronic.
Yeah,
They do, dabble. They go into hip hop or started in hip hop and stuff like that as well. People have different foundations, but as far as what they're known for right now in regards to electronic scene,
yeah,
we are doing the complete most. Like it's crazy, and it's really cool to see though, because I don't. It's wild to me because of how fast this all happened,
yeah,
right? And everyone, we jumped on this quick. We're like, oh well, people are gonna be at home, Well, let me show you a little piece of myself, and what I do, but in my home or in another way, what
yeah.
I mean, in a creative way. It's just, I think that's so cool. Like, I think that's incredible. Um, I mean, shoot, we look at that Insomniac Virtual Raveathon. That stage they set
Yeah.
up in the lobby is just insane. Like,
Every
bro,
weekend.
that was
Yeah, crazy.
so quick, dude. So quick. It blows my mind, honestly. Like,
That's the beautiful thing. It's all about finding ways. And then, like, for us, like I said, since we don't have their festival, we can't really push products. So, well, let's create other things. Let's show the community we're here for you regardless. Jumping back into senses and the releases, take us through that moment. I mean, this is something where I believe I'm this artist. I'm an up and coming artist. I have dreams. I have goals. I want to. I'm years ago. I'm envisioning releasing that first track, releasing that second track, right? And I put so much time into this. I've had to deal with my own self doubt, deal with overcoming things, deal with belief, deal with hearing about other people, seeing other people's successes. There's a whole slew of emotions,
yeah,
and then you go on Spotify and you see that your track is available to be listened to, and it's getting listens and plays. So take us through that. Take us through those early, because you just had recent releases. Your first release was like, I think, December 2019. So take us up to that point, and then understanding that, wow, was it, oh, this is just the beginning. But even, I feel like that point opens up a new whole journey. But everything leading up to that point, I'm sure, how did it feel seeing that first track, seeing that second track, that third and that fourth roll out?
yeah. I mean, it's very rewarding, like self-rewarding, kind of mentally rewarding, if you will. Because any producer who's ever put it together, at least a bunch of artwork and all these tracks and put in all these hours, you did that months in advance, if not years. So creating for me, creating an entire project ground up, from just the foundation of the music itself and the sound, and then getting visuals done and everything, an entire look and all that back end work, like all the other stuff, to getting to the full release, it feels great, you know. Even if the releases, like, you know, we're us as all producers, we always want, you know, the biggest best, and you want to look at the numbers, but you know, it's about little victories, man. Understanding, hey, I finished this, I did do this, you know, and then from there you can just continue to learn. You know, so in regards to like these past two releases, they're definitely getting pushed out a lot stronger, you know, but it's also timing in regards to that. So that in regards to like how it actually feels to do all that stuff, you know, there's times where you're just drained, you know, but you understand that, hey, you know, there is a bigger thing, so I'm going to put in this extra hour even though I am deadbeat tired to get this thing done so that I'm set for the next month or whatever. Like, you know, in regards to getting into fully final release day, you know, release day is not the end of that song. So people know that is not the end of the song. You have to push the track still. Making the music is just half the battle. As an artist, like I said, it goes back to that DJs with tickets and stuff. I just worked on this song for, you know, 3 weeks or whatever, you know, whatever the case may be, whatever the time frame is, you know, some happen in a couple days. What it just, you never know, right?
Yeah.
So I worked on this song this entire time. We got this mixed and we got it all set up. Well, now when I have this done, now we're getting on moving the cover art phase. And then when you get the cover art done, you get whatever other content you want to get ready for that. And then the song releases. That doesn't just stop there. You do all the pre stuff and you got the track done. And this is now we'll say for 2 weeks, okay? 2 weeks on the track, about 3 days on the cover art. And then you release it, and now you wait another 4 weeks so it hits Spotify and all stores. All right? You're already almost 2 months in right now, right? For one track. We'll just say for one track. And anyways, now you get to the release day and you're not going to push it. You did all this work and now you're just going to put it out there and say, you know what? Whoever finds it, finds it. Like, see, now you're going to go back and you got to put in the time again to push the track out. All at the same time while you're doing all this, because all this stuff overlaps. I'll still be pushing a track and working on that track, or working on like a new track or something, right? And then getting everything else together for it. Like, see, it's about, there is a balance in there, you know, and that's why, you know, if you're constantly working doing these things, you have to find that those times for good breaks. Because to be honest, if you do want enough as a producer, we're all working, you know. You see the really good producers who are working day in, day out, you know. So to those people, understand a work-life balance. Understand that you need to, you know, it's okay to step away, you know. It's okay to maybe take a weekend off. Like, just go do something, you know, get out of the house, you know, catch a tan that's not a studio tan. So, but anyways, it's in regards to people who maybe aren't working enough, you know that there's a lot to be done. I mean, there's always something in the back of our minds where you can always feel like you can do more, but you know, you gotta hold yourself accountable. And in regards to, once you can finally get the releases done and you can start pushing them and start seeing numbers grow, then you start realizing the reward and why you do all this work. That's at least for me. So
Yeah, dude, I think man, you nailed it. Like, the work you work so hard to get to that point. Huge milestone. Like you said, it's weeks for the track, then the cover art, then preparing the release. Then after that, there's more work to be done.
Maybe press, PR work, you know. There'd be a whole lot of other back end stuff I could have got into, but I left that part out. So.
Yeah, but you just mentioned it, like the hard work. And I think, you know, when you mentioned Kara, you mentioned Reed, when, you know, we had that time where we both went and you guys made that track, Cycles, which you said is releasing soon, and we'll talk about that in a bit. I think the part, I just sat there. I just sat there in the corner, like, I'm gonna sit in this corner, let you guys do you. Because one thing I learned is, let the artist be the artist. Let the artist do their thing, right? And I mean, dude, but then I'm here taking notes, learning, because the work ethic, like, that's what it comes down to. And I think a lot of art, everyone's working, and that's almost a prerequisite. You got to be working. You got to be getting after it. If you're going to collab with someone, they're probably going to ask, "Oh, what's his, what's his work? Is he working on it right now?" Even if you have a part-time job, even if, even if you're dealing with things, it's just kind of understanding. Well, if I take this break, cool, but if I jump back into it, I got to get after it. And then I think that's inspiring to see that, oh, people are working, they're getting after it, they're cranking out new stuff, and it's almost like you hear about this artist, and you're like, oh wow, then I'm doing my thing, and then so it's just a whole network. And yeah, you're right. There's always something to do, but at the same time, you appreciate those little moments in between, and I think that's what makes that's so beautiful about the track is, the track is like all that work compiled in one for that moment. And so, yeah, I mean, talk about, one of your tracks, in Rogue. Is it In Rogue or In Rouge?
In Rouge.
We're clear the air now on that one. In Rouge, amazing track. Has thousands. I think it's almost you barely released it, and it's already hitting thousands and thousands of streams. Talk about, and then Our Love. That's just like perfect timing for that because we need to embrace love. Then moving forward, you just mentioned what's next. Talk about, are there any other tracks dropping? You mentioned Cycles, and then what about an album?
Yeah. So in regards to like after Cycles, there'll probably be, it's going to be, well, right now there's a lot of work that's going into it. I'm mixing down a lot of my own originals that will end up being on an album. So that album's title will be determined later on. I already have it in mind, but we'll wait for a future date before I unveil that. So that album's going to be probably an additional 6 to 8 tracks right now. So you're going to be looking at a 12 to 14 track album coming out. So going into this, I kind of just observed other artists who I look up to, and a lot of these guys are, they're album artists, and I thought, I wanted that myself as well, because it's not just because I like the idea. It's more because also I've created all these tracks that all line up and they sound like a similar sound. So instead of releasing them all as singles, I thought I'd tell a story with it. That's at least how this went for me. It's different for everybody.
Yeah.
In regards to post, and aside from album work, I'm going to start working on some new collaborations here soon. Actually working on that right now at the moment. At least, today I will be. So then, it's more about collabs, and I'm going to start some remixes. My goal is to kind of get my originals out there and try to get some official remixes in there instead of just bootlegging artists, and try to, trying to ask them for permission to put it up, because I don't want to get flagged for that. And plus I don't want to take someone's, creative content and bootleg, those, for me, that SoundCloud era of bootlegs and stuff are just over, so I'm not going to do that. I want the respect from the artist, them to like my work, so that I can touch their work and do something a little bit different.
So you just mentioned it. I definitely want to talk about this. Going about the process, I guess you could call it the right way, but just like in a proper manner, right? So you just mentioned like how maybe in the past people were just like making bootleg tracks and whatnot. What if I'm an artist, I'm up and coming, and I want to do things like right? I want to do things respectful. I don't want another artist coming after me saying, "Hey man, you used something of mine," without even asking for permission or whatnot. Maybe you could talk about that a bit, because I want people to just have that information, and sometimes people don't know, and sometimes you will get in trouble, but if you can avoid it, that's probably better practice, right?
Now, in regards to releasing, and just so we're clear, I'm talking about releasing remixes, like actual releasing under the SNSES name.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to release a bootleg underneath the SNSES name. I feel like it tarnishes the name.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that. You can make a remix. I'm saying you can make bootlegs. I'm not saying don't. You can do that and make a remix of a track, but take it to the live stage. Take it to where it's an ID, or to where it's your still original thought. That you can still do that with live performances. You're totally able to do that. So you can definitely still remix a track or bootleg a track, and and play it out live, and test it out. but don't really like, for me, don't release it on your on your name. I don't think it's necessarily the best idea, but it's honestly, it's a really fine line though, you know. So in regards to, because there are cats out there, you know, like who are doing that, who are just unofficially remixing tracks and posting it to SoundCloud, right? And they're doing a killer job, and you know, I thank them for that. This is just from my perspective. I would still want, I want my own original thoughts to receive the respect, right, first, and then you allow me to you know, remix your track. Because for me, I want each track to be on every platform as much as possible. So that's my goal, you know. And so the only way to kind of do that is to get the approval of another artist in order to do so. Because if I'm just working on a track just to try to get it for hype or something on SoundCloud, at least for me, like SoundCloud is not like a huge major platform right now at the moment. I'll still use it because, you know, people who don't pay for the streaming services, you know, they can still get my music there and they can listen and all that. But at least for me, in regards to remixing, that's just kind of my rule of thumb, you know. I'd just rather be known for my original ideas, honestly, than my remixes. So
Cool, man. Well, I have to. I want to put you on the spot here. I mean, this has been great, very informative, and I feel like any artist that's looking to get to start their journey, or anyone that's in the early stages and kind of looking for that extra inspiration, motivation, going through hurdles, understanding that they're not alone. That a lot of artists, this is kind of the growing process. So one of the last things. So can you give me a list right here? You're meeting yourself. You're meeting Corey Vejar. He's 15 years old. He's like, I want to make music. I want to make EDM music. You get 3 tips. What 3 things would you tell yourself about what's ahead, how to go through it, and just kind of words of wisdom?
okay, so I'm gonna answer this in a 2-part thing. The first thing is gonna be kind of the funny side. One, it'd be like, get rid of that piece of junk laptop and get a good one. 2, invest and save your money, and 3, make sure to put in the work. Now, some of those are actually going to the next one. You know what I mean? It is truthful. Like I said, like, your equipment is pretty important in regards to my laptop and what I needed. But if I were to actually tell them like 3 honest tips, you know, ooh, man, that's a good one. It would be more understand, like, I would say you're going to get judged, right? And people are going to like the work and people aren't. But keep putting in practice, and, you know, one day you'll make, you know, you'll find that sound and you will make it. That'll be the first one. Number 2 is, you know, I would just say, you just put in practice, put in hours. Like, if you care about it, don't stop doing it. And number 3 is make it happen. Simple as that.
Yeah, there it is. It's thought followed by action. You know what I mean? Belief, thought, and action. And that has led you here, man. You put out some beautiful tracks. You just mentioned it. Everyone's Cycles is coming out next month. Is that?
Yes, sir. May 15th.
May 15th, Cycles featuring Kara. Definitely give a super shout out to Kara, because she has been killing it. She just dropped a song with Gasly. She's killing it. She's doing her thing. You know, obviously, just gotta share the love. But thank you, brother. There it is. A belief, thought, and action, and it will manifest, right? So be focused, stay out there, work towards it. Cycles coming out May 15th. SNSES, love you, brother. Thanks for jumping on. We're gonna have to have you on soon after the album.
No,
get back on here, talk about.
Definitely, we'll get that going. There'll be more details on that to come. So until next time, guys.
Yeah. Any last word for the festival community as a whole? You know what I mean?
Hey guys, you know, it's tough, you know, and I know we want to be out dancing in the desert or wherever, you know, in the club on a sweaty dance floor. Like, just stay home, man. It's that simple. I mean, this is uncontrollable. It's out of our control. So, you know, just stay positive. Don't complain about it too much. As long as you take care of yourselves and others around you, then we'll be good to go. We'll be back out there soon. So just stay positive, stay up, and much love, guys.
Love it, love it. Festiie Files, continue to raise your vibration. Let's all vibe on that same frequency, guys. Staying positive. Thank you, SNSES. Everyone take care. Signing out.
Love you guys. Bye-bye.